All right, I got to be careful using songs like that as my bumper music. when we put these podcasts later on up as podcasts on YouTube, then they flag it. They say you got to copyright a song on that. So I'm going to lower that music and introduce you to our next guest. And you know what? You should be dancing when you hear that music. Life is Short, Don't Wait to Dance is the title of the book that Valorie Kondos has written. She is the head coach of the UCLA women's gymnastic team. She has led her team to 7 NCAA championship titles and 29 Pac-12 and NCAA regional titles. She's named the Pac-12 Coach of the Century. She was inducted into the USA Athletics Hall of Fame.
UCLA.
And I'm sorry, what?
UCLA Athletics Hall of Fame.
What did I say?
USA.
Okay, UCLA. I'm reading fast. UCLA. I got that song in my head. Life is Short, Don't Wait to Dance. Advice and inspiration from the UCLA Athletic Hall of Fame coach of 7 NCAA championship teams. Wow, that's a lot to read right there. Good morning, Valorie Kondos. Good morning, Valorie. How are you?
Good morning. That was fabulous.
Oh, good. You're fabulous. Your book is doing really well on Amazon, by the way. You got 5-star ratings across the board.
Thank you.
People are really embracing what you're saying. I think right now, yeah, there it is. You're number 5 right now on the whole of millions of books on Amazon.
Wow.
That's pretty good. So where are you in LA right now?
No, I'm in Evans, Georgia.
You're in Georgia?
I'm visiting family, and I just had biscuits and gravy for breakfast.
And you missed it, didn't you?
No, I've never made gravy. I've never made biscuits.
So who made it for you this morning?
My sister and brother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
Okay. So is that where you're from?
No, I'm from Northern California.
Oh, and she?
I'm a California girl.
Where's your sister from?
I married my sister-in-law. I married a cowboy from Texas. I married a football coach. He was our football defensive coordinator for 22 years.
Oh, my gosh.
He grew up in the South. So we're here visiting his family. And I'm learning all sorts of new words, like might, could, and could, all those words I didn't know ever existed.
Oh, that's funny. Well, you can use them in your next book.
I can, yes. I have a whole chapter on that.
I do think as the country gets older, we will start to speak separate languages. I think that it'll just be a little bit of time before we change everything, right?
It's so interesting. And working with 18 to 22-year-olds every day, you know, I said to them the other day, I said, I want you to ratchet it up. And they all were mortified because that now is a word that you shouldn't be using.
Oh, really?
No, it's like a wrench. It's like a wrap. You twist something up and you make it more sturdy.
Yeah, okay.
Right, exactly.
They had no idea what I was talking about.
Okay, but so it's not like a dirty word now, ratchet, right?
No, it's not a dirty word. It's someone
wait a minute,
or something like that.
I
don't know.
Did they think you said rat excrement? Is that what they thought you said?
I don't even think they would know what that second word means. So no,
okay.
I don't think they think I said that.
Yeah.
I'll ask them.
Because you can say ratchet on the air, but you can't say the one that sounds like ratchet. You can't say that word.
Right.
You're fun already.
This is going the wrong direction.
So you are a professional ballerina, right?
Mm-hmm. I was 100 years ago.
100, wow.
Well, I am the coach of the century, remember? Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So what did you learn from that? How did that become who you are today?
A lot. When I was asked, I was the choreographer for the UCLA gymnastics team for 8 years, 1982 to 1990. And I was called in the athletic director's office and asked to be the new head coach. And I had zero aspirations to coach. And I looked at them and I laughed and I said, "You understand, I don't know the first thing about gymnastics." And when I took the job and I figured out how am I going to do this job well, what can I bring to the table? And I started correlating my 17 years of classical ballet training with what gymnasts went through. And, you know, you have to learn how to work hard, really hard. You need to learn how to work through pain. And then there were all these other correlations, like what is it like to be a young woman having to go through puberty in a leotard? Yeah. What's it like to be in a situation where you're based on perfection every day? And that then leads to body image issues, which can lead to disordered eating and eating disorders, and all of these tough similarities. But the thing that really was my aha moment was I was one of those dancers where when I was standing in the wings, I was always calm and excited to go out on stage. And there used to be buckets in the wings where some of the dancers would vomit before they went on stage because they were so nervous. And I never understood this. It's like, no, this is what we train for, to go on stage.
Yeah.
This is what we prepare for.
Yeah.
And I looked at our gymnasts, and I would see that they're waiting in the wings is when they're standing there waiting for the judge to salute them to go up on an event. And I thought, I can prepare them mentally, emotionally, and physically to be calm and confident in that moment. And I can do that as well as anybody else in the country. I just needed to hire assistant coaches that knew everything I didn't know, which was the actual gymnastics part of it.
Okay. I do understand what you're saying there. So can I tell you a little personal story? This not in any way near what you're talking about, but I used to play guitar and sing in colleges. This is also 100 years ago, back in the other century. And I would always get nervous also, like stage fright nervous. And never to the point where I needed a bucket, but I heard an interview with Carly Simon one time, and she said she got so nervous that she would vomit. And I thought, wow, if it happens to her, then I guess being nervous is just part of it. And, just saying that to myself took care of it.
Right.
That's all I needed was to just say, oh, it's normal. And then all of a sudden it didn't matter.
Right. Well, it's interesting, the power of the mind, because when you look at what your body physiologically goes through when it's nervous and your blood pressure accelerates and you start sweating and you get dry mouth and all that, that's exactly the same thing that your body goes through when you're excited. So when you switch that word in your head from I'm nervous to I'm excited, all of a sudden you have a different result.
That's very smart. Is it easy? I get it, but was it a hard sell? Did I'm guessing you worked mostly with ladies, or am I wrong to assume that?
No, just with women, yeah. My first few years, this is basically what the whole book is about, how a dancer choreographer became one of the winningest coaches in athletics. And my first few years as a head coach, the only thing I knew how to do was mimic other coaches. And in my mind, a coach, that paradigm of a coach was tough-talking, relentless, not joyful, dictatorial. And that's what I acted like. And when I just realized that we were having horrible results with that, that's when I went back to my office and I started thinking, what do I bring to the table? And I realized all these similarities. And I said, I'm just going to be myself. And a big part of what I feel was a blessing to me early on, which is still, is that I didn't know anything, so I couldn't have an ego. And so I had to ask 100 questions a day. And to this day, that's still how I coach. When the athlete does a skill, whether it's good or bad, I'll say, what were you feeling? What were you thinking?
Oh,
what needs to change?
And maybe that's what made you one of the best coaches. Maybe because you'd had that, it's just kind of a unique angle. I mean, whoever put you in that spot made a smart decision.
Well, thank you. I credit it all to Dr. Judy Holland. She is the godmother of Title IX. She started this in the 70s, and anybody in athletics will say knows Dr. Judy Holland. And I had lunch with her a few weeks ago when I announced my retirement, and I said, Dr. Holland, what possessed you to hire someone who knew? I mean, I'd never gone upside down. I've never done gymnastics. And she said, I hire character above ability, which is one of the top things in Jim Collins' book, Good to Great. One of the best-selling books on the planet. You hire character above ability. And she said, I trusted your character that we would figure things out well.
Yeah, that was smart.
And when I started being really true to myself, and we started now having success athletically, one of the seniors on my team that had gone through this transition with me of going from trying to mimic other coaches to being me, she said to me, Miss Val, you have finally become a leader worth following.
Wow.
Oh,
and
wow.
Yeah. And I think that is such an important part of this book is don't try to be anybody else. It never, ever works. You will always be a second-rate them.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, that is so smart.
Be
yes.
yourself, sure.
Oh, I see that in everything. I see that in radio. I see that in people who do music. Exactly. When they find themselves, which is not always easy, by the way, to find yourself, then they bloom, they blossom, they become something better than they thought.
And there's another little nugget in the book that is really poignant, and it's our sports psychologist shared with us a few years ago, that in order to really hear your inner voice, you need to listen to what your personal truth is. And in order to listen, if you write listen out and you rearrange the letters, it spells silent. You need to silence your mind in order to really hear your true, authentic voice.
That's a Gary Busey kind of logic right there. switch letters around.
With your coaching ethic, though, you also put into practice the same thing in your personal life. You use the word choreography, and it's not just for what the athletes are doing on the dance floor while they're competing in the balance beam or floor exercises and things. It's also about choreographing your own life.
True. And the word choreography, people think that means dance, but choreography really is any intentional movement. So if you stand up and you move your arm above your head to wave to someone, that is intentional movement.
Really?
That is you choreographing that moment of your life.
I choreograph so much.
You are such a good choreographer.
I'm gonna make sure I use that.
You've been such an inspiration to others, and we were told that you were diagnosed with breast cancer 4 years ago. Yeah. How did you deal with that emotionally?
That's again, I keep bringing up the book, but that's all of my whole life is in this book. Towards the end of the book, I'm going to give it away right now. I get diagnosed with a very aggressive form of breast cancer. And when I hung up the phone with my doctor, when she said you need to come in immediately, the only time I'd dealt with cancer had been 20 years prior. My mother died a horrific, painful death of colon cancer. And I went into shock and kind of battle mode, like I'm going to have to go into battle mode to fight this thing. And I heard in that moment, very clearly, be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. And I went home and I told my husband the not so great news about the breast cancer. And I said, but get this, I heard be anxious for nothing and grateful for all things. And he said, that's from the Bible. Well, I had never read the Bible. I grew up in a Greek Orthodox church. The Bible was in ancient Greek. And he said, go look it up. So I went to the Bible and I looked it up. Sure enough, in Philippians 4, it says, be anxious for nothing.
Wow.
And then paraphrased, and grateful for all things. I heard this before I ever read it.
What do you mean you heard it? What does that, I mean, like a psychic hears thing, or like a dream, or what do you mean?
You know what? I love the fact you asked that question, because for me to be able to share my story with people, I know that there are going to be people that think I'm a nut job. But
I don't think that. I'm just curious.
Whether you translate this as cosmic energy or the universe speaking to you or whatever, I translated it as God saying to me, be anxious for nothing. And the way you're going to not be anxious, is through gratitude. And so I literally heard it before I ever read it.
So how did you...
And I went to my doctor the next day.
Yeah.
And I was dumbfounded, like, how am I not supposed to be anxious? I just got diagnosed with this potentially fatal disease.
Right.
And she had this big grin on her face, which I thought was odd. And she said, you've gone from having the worst type of breast cancer to the best type. Because 10 years ago, we had absolutely nothing for you. And if you choose to get chemotherapy for a year and surgery, I know it will work. And in that moment, I understood how I was not going to be anxious was through gratitude that I lived at a time that had the chemotherapy.
Oh my gosh! Wow, absolutely. So how much time passed between your mom passing and you getting diagnosed?
I think 25 years.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah.
Well, I saw the photo of you and your mom. You're both beautiful ladies.
Yeah.
And so how old was she when she passed?
She was a mere 53.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
Wow.
Gosh.
Yeah, and I was 54 when I was diagnosed. Yeah.
So
That switching that word "have to" "get to." I don't have to get chemo. I get to get chemo. Switching that word has changed every moment of my life since that moment. Because when you live in gratitude, I don't have to go to work. I get to go to work because I have a job. I don't have to go put gas in my car. I get to put gas in my car because guess what? I can afford a car, and I can afford the gas to put in the car. Switching that one word changes your entire outlook on how you live your life.
that's very smart. This is why you're a great coach. You know how to use words very, very effectively. I mean, you just gave us a couple of really good ones that we'll probably take with us the rest of our lives.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And that's why the book is doing so well. The word of mouth it's a very easy read, and there are little nuggets throughout the entire book that you can just marinate on through your day and go, I don't have to do the laundry. I get to do the laundry. Because I have clothes, and I have a washing machine. I have to wash it by hand. How cool is that?
Exactly.
So do you tell your husband that? You don't have to do the laundry. You get to do it. Do you tell him?
Well, you know what? My husband doesn't let me do the laundry because he's so persnickety. So I married a good one. Yeah.
We were also told you do through your book. Your book is a wonderful read. Really enjoyed reading it. That you were also involved with the SeaWorld choreograph.
I am.
Yeah.
Yes. I have choreographed the human shows. You'll like it. Okay, so I've choreographed. They're kind of like Cirque du Soleil shows. I've done this for 28 years. They're their summer shows. But when some people hear that I choreograph for SeaWorld and they know that I'm a gymnastics coach, I can't tell you how many of them think they've connected the dots and they go, "Oh, you're the one that teaches Shamu how to flip." And I'm like, seriously?
How do they teach Shamu how to flip? I don't understand how they
With
can make
fish.
a big animal, huh?
With fish. They just
Yeah, but I could hold a fish out over the ocean all day long, and nobody's going to jump for it.
well, you don't know that until you try it.
And then the gymnastics portion is broken down into different portions, and I didn't realize that each event, the girls that compete in each event, they have a certain criteria that they have to follow, certain moves, like the balance beam moves and things like that.
Yeah, I think the most interesting part about gymnastics, like any sport at this level, is the mental game. Because when you become a good athlete, you're going to work hard, you're going to train hard, you're going to eat well, you're going to do all that stuff. But it really comes down to what separates the great from just the good is the mental game. And I think it was, somebody said when Kobe Bryant was going through a slump, I don't know if it was LeBron James, someone said Kobe forgot he was great. It wasn't he lost his talent or his work ethic, but just that mental game. And what's really fun for me, not having been a gymnast, is figuring out the mental game for each event. Because think about it, like vault, well, you've got to run as fast as you can, and you've got to barrel into that vaulting horse, and then flip as high as you can, and be controlled when you land. But on balance beam, it literally is only 4 inches wide and 4 feet off the ground, and it feels like when you're up on that beam, it feels like it's 10 feet off the ground. You've got to take all of this energy and all of the noise outside that you're hearing, and you've got to stifle all that and zero in on these 4 inches.
Wow.
And
yeah. Can I ask you about competition?
Sure.
If you have two strong athletes who are competing against one another, and I'm going to kind of clarify the word strong to mean mentally strong, okay? So you have two great athletes who've got the whole the mind thing going on. One of them is going to win. It doesn't mean that the one who didn't win didn't do it well, but is there anything in your experience that would indicate how, like you have this great idea of how to ward off stage fright. Well, how do you ward off the mental game that a competitor, like let's take two boxers. It's an easy one because you can actually hear them saying things to each other. So does that actually make a difference for anybody, whether it's sports or gymnastics or the arts or anything?
You know what? I think that every athlete has to find their zone and what their mental and emotional state is when they're in their best zone. But I would argue for most athletes, it's when they allow them to be joyful. And the athlete that will bring joy to their performance or to the game are the ones that it's this magical elixir. It's the secret sauce. You do all the hard work, you prepare well, and then when you allow yourself to play the game, play joyfully.
So,
that's the secret sauce.
So going back to the be anxious for nothing and grateful for everything, how else does that manifest itself in your world? Does it... Do you not worry about the future as much as you might have if you didn't have that, if you didn't grasp that?
No, you only focus on today because none of us are guaranteed tomorrow. So let's make today the best that we can.
Yeah.
And what I have found with our student athletes, we start training every morning at 7:45. That's hard for them to be up and emotional and awake even. And there are times where they just put so much pressure on themselves because it's a stressful time for them with school and everything else. And this may sound like I'm using this opportunistically, but I absolutely believe this, and I want to remind our athletes of this as often as possible, that can we just take a moment, close our eyes, and give thanks for those things and be grateful for the things that we've not earned.
Yeah.
One of them being that you're young women in leotards playing games. Do you know how many countries there are in this world that you would not be allowed to do this?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. So if you're having a hard time today, just give thanks for those people that have fought for your freedom to be able to be a young woman playing games in a leotard. You get to do gymnastics today. And if that doesn't get you up and motivated, then we need to have a serious talk.
How did you handle the situation with your students when the news came out of Michigan about the coach? Did you call a special meeting? How did you? You
mean the coach or the doctor?
The doctor. I'm sorry.
The bad guy.
Well, I knew him very well. I knew Larry Nassar very well.
I hate that he has my name. I hate that.
I'm sorry, but you know what? It's not. It's
We're going to change his name. We'll keep yours.
Yeah. We had our assistant coach, Jordan Weber, was one of the women that was in Michigan that gave her impact statement. And the very next day, we were competing at Arizona. And so I knew Jordan was flying back to be with us at our competition. And I just sat down and talked to the girls about what was going on, and not realizing I thought we would have some athletes on our teams that had experienced the same thing that hadn't come out yet, but I knew that wasn't the time to pressure them or ask them. But I just wanted to celebrate this army of strong women that were able to stand up in front of their abuser, and
absolutely, yeah,
courage and confidence and poise. Look him in the eye and tell their story. And I said, you know what? That courage, confidence, and poise is what each of them learned through the sport of gymnastics. So Jordan's going to come back, and we're going to, if you want to, let's wear teal ribbons in our hair because teal represents supporting sexual abuse victims. And we talked about it, not a lot through the season, but we would bring it up, and we wore teal every meet. I asked the girls if they wanted to or not. They said yes. And then I had some coaches from around the country that were upset with us that we were wearing teal because they felt like now they were forced to wear teal. Yeah. I said, you do you, and we'll do us. You know, I'm not trying to force this on anyone. We're here to support Jordan and the victims. And Then later on, 2 of our Olympians on our team came out as victims. And one of them, Kyla Ross, said at the end of our season, she said, Miss Val, I feel that because we talked about it, you helped me put words to my feelings that I'd been having. And because my feelings no longer were dictating how I felt, but that I was in control now of how I was talking to myself and how I was feeling, she says, I literally felt myself walk taller as the season went on. And she said, I don't think we would have won a championship this year had we not talked about it and taken ownership of our feelings.
Yeah, you're like a guru. I really agree with what she said. I think you've got the ability to understand how words can really, really, really sink into us and make us stronger. You've done it with Robin and me in just a 25-minute interview. The book is called Life is Short. Don't wait to have biscuits and gravy. No, it's called Life is Short. Don't wait to dance.
Y'all.
Life is Short. Don't wait to dance. Valorie Kondos, what a great interview you just gave us. Thank you so much. That's so profound. There were so many parts of this that I would love to, if this was print media, to just make it bold and put it in a separate place on the page.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me give the book away. You guys sent us a book, so let me give one to one of our listeners. I found it on Amazon. It's number 5. It'll be number 1 at the end of this half hour, I'm sure.
There you go.
And how else? Do you have a website you want to recommend?
Yes, please. officialmissval.com.
Okay, repeat that, please.
officialmissval.com.
Okay.
MissVal.com.
Okay,
Excellent.
officialmissval.com. You're beautiful, by the way. Thank you. Thank you, Valorie. Thank you for being on the show with us today.
Have a wonderful holiday season. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You too. We will be right back.
Bye-bye.